Yeah.
But just watching his growth, and he's still just the most like, he's still, says to me, like every time I run into him, it's, like it's just my buddy that we haven't seen each other in a while. And we just pick right up where we left off, talking about nonsense in football. Dude, I don't know if you know this, but you're literally on top of the world right now. You're like the complete package. I don't know if you're aware. I do. I'll tell you. I got no qualms in it.
You're literally the biggest guy in the world. People can't even do promos because they're just singing your song.
Yes.
Now, as much as we could probably talk about Seth Rollins all day, we're here to talk about you. What are top 5, not even in any order, just 5 of your career highlights?
So one of the first ones I go to is, and thank God, I don't even know why, but I just had when I won the Ring of Honor tag titles with Tony Marvel, it was at the Hammerstein Ballroom, which is where, the very first one. It was the same show as Joe vs. Kobashi. And here I am winning the Ring of Honor tag titles. And it was one of those things where going into the show, the match wasn't even announced. Like it was a complete, surprise. And I don't know why. At that time, I had never done anything like this before. But when we won the title, there was kind of a silence. Like it was a stunned silence. And I remember looking at Tony like, oh no, they don't care. But then you heard a smattering of applause that turned into a bigger applause that turned into like a rowdy, oh, and for whatever reason, it's one of those things that I'll hold forever. Standing in the aisleway, holding up the Ring of Honor tag team title in the Hammerstein, like, dude, this is where, this is where the first Raw was. This is where hundreds of ECW shows that I watched were.
Yeah.
In, an hour and a half, Samoa Joe's going to wrestle freaking Kenta Kobashi. And here I am, a part of it. Not just a part of it, but holding the tag title and being cheered. Like, that's one of those moments where it's just like, oh, wow. Recently,
I hate to stop you, but I had friends that were there that night. It was that night, and they said that crowd was very raucous the entire night. So I can imagine what the cheer ended up turning into that night.
Yeah, it was nuts. But I will tell you this, and yes, the crowd was on fire. There was nobody in the building on more fire than Jamie Noble.
Oh.
Jamie Noble I love Jamie. Like I said, I've known Jamie since he was a young dragon, right? So we go back forever. But when he got released in 2004 and started making indie rounds, I was on a lot of shows with him. So we got to be, pretty close, and we're still, whenever he sees me, it's always what he's doing. Hey boy, how you doing? Hey Sal, so but that night, man, Jamie was on fire where, during the Joe Kobashi match, we're all up in the balcony watching, and there's the NOAH representatives right next to us. And with every chop, just get him, Joe. Get, chop him back. That's what I'm talking about. So wrestling guys, is everybody watching this? Oh, this is so good. I'm just like, Jamie, breathe, buddy.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, no, Jamie's the best. I love Jamie to death. More recently, I just did a match with Omos on TV. And that's the first time Jacob got to see me have a match on WWE TV. And there's been a couple times since he's been alive where I've had I've been booked for a match and something changed. So he'd never seen me on WWE TV wrestling before. He's seen clips of it from, before he was born and all that, but he's never got to see it live. So I made sure, I was like, hey man, I'm not going to just make sure you're watching like you wouldn't watch him anyways. But I was like, hey, segment 7 is Seth Rollins, make sure you're watching then. And so, because we were segment 8. So, we went out and, like Adam Pearce was the agent for the match, and I love Pearce to death. I literally I just talked to Pearce today. I mean, that's, and Pearce was the agent. He saw that I was there, and he's like, thank God, I know what I got with you. Let's go do this, and so we do the match, and, I get to the back, and Pierce was, very like, dude, you killed it. Thank you so much. And then I got back to my phone, and the very first text I saw was from Jacob. It was it's like, oh my God, Dad, that's effing amazing. And I turned my phone off. That's all I needed. That's going to be one of those moments that, like, it's not glitzy and glamorous, but it's just like, my big thing is trying to show my kids. Like, my eldest son hates pro wrestling. He'll never admit it. He just doesn't care. And my daughter doesn't, she, whatever, but she's daddy's little girl, so it's okay. But Jacob's mini me. So, that's all I needed, right? Like I knew I was going to have a bunch of texts from buddies like, oh, whatever. But to be able to show the kids like, hey, when I'm telling you I'm working hard for a reason, I'm not just working hard to work hard. Like if you put your mind to something, if you bust your butt, if you get a couple of the right opportunities, good things can happen. Here it is.
Yeah.
This is that moment, Jacob got to swag into school the next day and like, oh, what'd your dad do last night? My dad was on Raw. Right? Like that's one of those moments that will mean nothing to nobody else ever. But it's such like a, look, I did it. I did it. You can do it. Follow my lead, buddy.
That's better than any main event at WrestleMania.
Absolutely. It's the pride and joy from that text message. Like I said, I turned off my phone. There was nothing anybody was going to ever say to me that evening that could have come close to that. Turned off the phone, but I'll talk to the world tomorrow. I mean, it was also fortunate that my buddy Marv was with me and he had the GPS, so that helped. But yeah, those two of them. Winning the Wildside Junior Heavyweight title was a big deal, just because that was like when I got into Wildside, that was the title I wanted. And even when I was getting into Wildside, keep in mind, I think my first match in Wildside, I was 16 going on 17. I was 90 pounds and 60 of it was hair. But I wanted to win the Wildside Junior title. That was like the first, like, okay, if you get to this level, then you're somebody in this building, and that's where we can get the ball rolling. And it took a couple of years. I won it in March of 2003, but once I got it, I was like, oh, this is cool. This is the same title that AJ Styles had, and Air Paris had, and Jimmy Reddy, Caprice Coleman, and now me. And it's one of those you can't be undone. Can't be taken back. I already did it.
Yeah.
That was a pretty big deal. it's hard to just pinpoint a couple because I've been very, very blessed. Getting to wrestle at the Chase for the NWA.
Oh yeah.
Just because. So let me ask you this. Because like I said before, I grew up on Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazines, right? I grew up on the magazines. I didn't have the internet and all that stuff. So like, I'd only read about this mythical building that is the Chase. Even as you get older, you watch the shoot interviews, and you hear about the Chase, but the Chase doesn't have wrestling anymore. Chase hadn't had wrestling in it since 1991. I say all that to ask you this. Do you know how many men have walked on the moon?
Well, it depends on if you get into conspiracy theories or not. But what is it? It's like 6 or 8. It's pretty low, obviously.
Yeah, it's 12 human beings.
12. Wow.
In the history of mankind have stepped
Right.
foot on the Chase was my moon. It's impossible. Like, I'll never step foot there, right? Like, and so when we had the team meeting and Billy announced, like, okay, guys, next pay-per-view, it was the 73rd. 73rd anniversary. He goes, 73rd, we're going to be in St. Louis. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And he goes, yeah, we rented out the Chase. And I just, what? Like, oh, that's sacred grounds. That's not just a building. Like, that's the stuff that, I only heard stories, like, and we're going back in August again this year, and every year I'm just like, this is unreal. Like, the amount of talent that has stepped foot through these doors, the legendary names, and I'm on that list. Like, I'm now forever a part of the history of the Chase. Like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Like, that doesn't make, life is weird. Like, that doesn't make sense. That's not how this works.
You're adding memories to and giving more conversation for those walls if they were ever to speak. You're adding to that.
Yeah. And like, even so we did the show at the Chase, and I'll never, it's just one of those, again, it's one of those cherished moments that only I got to experience. So they brought in Ric Flair for the first anniversary show there, right?
Oh yeah.
So I'm not just gonna, like, again, I love pro wrestling. Like, this is it for me. So like, I'm not just gonna sit downstairs and watch Ric Flair cut a promo in the Chase for the company I'm wrestling for. I'm gonna be by the curtain. I'm gonna have my head out there. I can feel it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting down by the curtain. Ric Flair's in the ring, cutting a Ric Flair promo, and I feel some eyes behind me. And it's just because when I sat down, there was nobody there. It was just me and the curtain and Ric Flair. And about halfway through, I feel eyes behind me, and I turn around, and it's Billy Corgan standing there watching the promo. And I'm just like, in front of me is Ric Flair. Behind me, we're in the Chase. It's like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, what is life?
Yeah, like, none of this is real. When do I wake up? This is stupid. This is not how it works. Life is weird. But it's just one of those little, magical moments where it's just like, I can't believe this is happening. I just can't believe it's happening. So yeah, is that 5? I don't know.
It's 5 enough for me.
Yeah. And I can't pin down just a couple. I've been so blessed to just the number of people I've shared the ring with, from guys that I looked up to as a child,
right,
to guys my kids look up to now, to guys that are just not just friends but family. You know, it's been such an incredible journey.